Good morning all, I'm Nagasaki Suraj of Grade 8 Lotus, and today I'm here to talk about Nagasaki Day. On August 9, 1945, a second atom bomb is dropped on Japan by the United States at Nagasaki, resulting finally in Japan's unconditional surrender. The devastation wrought at Hiroshima was not sufficient to convince the Japanese War Council to accept the Potsdam Conference's demand for unconditional surrender. The United States had already planned to drop their second atom bomb, nicknamed Fat Man, on August 11 in the event of such recalcitrance, but bad weather expected for that day pushed the date up to August 9th. So, at 1:56 a.m., a specially adapted B-29 bomber called Boxcar after its usual commander, Frederick Bob, took off from Tinian Island under the command of Major Charles W. Sweeney. Nagasaki was a shipbuilding center, the very industry intended for destruction. The bomb was dropped at 11:02 a.m., 1,650 feet above the city. The explosion unleashed the equivalent force of 22,000 tons of TNT. The hills that surrounded the city did a better job of containing the destructive force, but the number killed is estimated at anywhere between 60,000 and 80,000. The impact on bombing of Nagasaki. Due to the hilly geography of Nagasaki and the bombing focus being away from the city center, the excessive damage from the bombing is limited to the Urakami Valley and part of downtown Nagasaki. The center of Nagasaki, the harbor, and the historic district were shielded from the blast by the hills around the Urakami River. The nuclear bombing did nevertheless prove devastating, with approximately 22.7% of Nagasaki's buildings being consumed by flames, but the death toll and destruction was less than in Hiroshima. Estimates of casualties from Nagasaki have generally ranged between 50,000 and 100,000, with many dying instantaneously and others dying slowly and agoniingly as a result of burns and radiation. Effect of a nuclear weapon. These two events still resonate to this day and serve as the greatest warning of devastating effects of nuclear weapons. As well as the high death toll, those that survived the initial detonation and firestorms quickly became ill with radiation poisoning, with symptoms ranging from severe burns, hair loss, nausea, and bleeding. This was compounded by the fact that 90% of medical staff in both cities were either killed or disabled, and what medical supplies existed quickly ran out. The bombings of both Hiroshima and Nagasaki represent a human tragedy which should never be repeated. The risk of accidental or intentional use of nuclear weapons remains significant. No state or international organization has the capacity to address or prove the short and long-term humanitarian assistance and protect needed in case of nuclear weapon explosion. When the US dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, the cities were obliterated. By 1950, over 340,000 people had died as a result, and generations were poisoned by radiation. Today, 15,000 nuclear weapons still threaten the survival of the world, even though the majority of people in the world and their governments want to negotiate an international ban on their development and use. As we commemorate the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, let's remember what a nuclear bomb can do and pledge to work together to make sure no other towns suffer the same pain and devastation.